You know, the review is serious when I have to put my hair up. Okay, hair has gone up. Um, so today for this video, I have a book review on The Many Lives of Mama Love by Laura Love Hardin. It is I'm pretty sure this was a Oprah's book club book. Let me fact check myself really quickly. Okay, I'm right. It was an Oprah's book club book. The edition I have is a book of the month one. So, okay, first I'm gonna start with this is my first this is my first book review I've ever done, so I really don't know what format I want to do this in. I think I'm going to talk about, first of all, the synopsis. I'm just going to read to you the synopsis, and then try to summarize it a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about how I stumbled upon this book, because I didn't get this book from an online recommendation, which is actually pretty surprising to me, because this was a 5 star. So I don't know why more people aren't talking about this book. um yeah, I'm gonna give some basic information, how I stumbled upon this book, when I read it, when I finished it, and my overall thoughts, and also parts of the book that I really enjoyed. I think that's gonna be my format for this book review. So yeah, let's get started. So this book was published in August of 2023. A little bit after it was published, I was at a bookstore in New Hope, PA, and I saw it on the table of new releases, picked it up, read the synopsis, and I was really interested in it, but I wasn't interested in the price. This book goes for $28.99. It is a hardcover. It's expensive. That like bottom line. Even though I was really interested in it, I wasn't willing to spend the money on it. Then a few months later, at this point we're in 2024, I went to New York with my boyfriend, and we went to a small bookstore. It's actually a pretty big bookstore, but they do like discounts, called Book Off. And I got the book for $9.50. So that was just like, that was a justified price to me. So I said, absolutely, it's time. Discounted price. I was like, let's do it. So that's how I stumbled upon the book. I literally just saw it on a table. I said, this is interesting. Looked at the price. I said, absolutely not. Then I went to this other bookstore. I saw it on the shelf of like hundreds of books. It caught my eye, and I said, "Oh my god, this is a great price. I've been wanting to read this book anyway. Let me pick it up." So that's how this book ended up on my shelf. So that was like the beginning of 2024, and it is currently January 2025. That's when I read this book. So it's been collecting dust for a little bit. I don't know what compelled me to pick up the book when I did, but I'm so glad I did. This was a 5 star read. It was my very first read of the new year, and it was a 5 star. I couldn't be happier. I feel like that's just like a good omen, you know what I mean? Like, it's a really good start to the new year. So I'm gonna read the synopsis. And the synopsis, oh my god, like, this book is just so interesting, and I feel like we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Okay. So I'm reading from the synopsis. No one expects the police to knock on the door of the $1 million 2 story home of the perfect cul-de-sac housewife. But soccer mom Laura Love Hardin has been hiding a shady secret. She is funding her heroin addiction by stealing her neighbor's credit cards. Laura is convicted of 32 felonies and becomes inmate S32179. She finds that jail is a class system with the power structure that is somewhere between an adolescent sleepover party and Lord of the Flies. Furniture is made from tampon boxes, and Snicker bars are currency. But Laura quickly learns the rules and brings love and healing to her fellow inmates as she climbs the social ladder and acquires the nickname Mama Love, showing that jailhouse politics aren't that different from the PTA meetings she used to attend. When she's released, she reinvents herself as a ghostwriter. Now she's legally co opting other people's identities and getting to meet Oprah, meditate with the Dalai Lama, and have dinner with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. But the shadow of her past follows her. Shame is a poison worse than heroin. There's no way to detox. Laura must navigate. Laura must learn how to forgive herself and others, navigate life as a felon on probation, and prove to herself that she is more good than bad, among other essential lessons. The Many Lives of Mama Love is a heartbreaking and tender journey from shame to redemption, despite a system that makes it almost impossible for us to move beyond the worst thing we have ever done. So that's the synopsis of this book. It's like hard hitting. Like, the synopsis itself is, I feel like, is very heavy. The book is heavier. Okay, I think the book goes through a lot of different like aspects. So first you start with her heroin addiction. Then you get to see what it was like for her in prison. Then she gets let out for a little bit. She relapses. this book just shows imperfection throughout. Even when she gets her life together, there is imperfection that she is not afraid to talk about, and shame that she's not afraid to talk about. She becomes a ghostwriter. She loves writing. That was one of the things that helped her get over her addiction, and find purpose. She started writing while she was in prison. Like she found writing again while she was in prison and wrote letters for her inmates and helped them improve their situation. And then she was able to take that skill and be a ghostwriter. And while she was a ghostwriter, she was hesitant to tell people of her past, um, especially because part of her addiction had to do with, like, she had to maintain her heroin addiction by using other people's funds. She was stealing credit cards, stealing people's credit card information to pay and fund her addiction. And so when she received a job as a ghostwriter, and she was given a lot of responsibility, and people didn't trust her, but luckily she had someone in her life who did trust her and believed in her. And this is just a story of redemption and hope and support and love, and it was amazing throughout. um so for me, what really stuck with me with this book is gonna be crazy. The first chapter, the very first chapter of this book, talks about her love for reading. Now, if you're here watching this video on this channel, because I think you also like reading. So it definitely grabbed me as an audience to hear her say that her very first addiction was reading. And she says that, how do you go, you don't expect someone who is obsessed with reading to become a heroin addict. The first chapter is just, I think it sets the story up perfectly. She creates an understanding between herself and the reader. You can relate to her. You can relate to her in the beginning, and by the end of the chapter, depending on who you are, you either you sympathize with her or you empathize with her, because you can relate with her. You still can relate with her. Like it covers two huge sides of the spectrum of the audience. But she also talks about how, even though she was addicted to so many different things throughout her life, the one thing she was truly addicted to was escaping. You use reading as an escape. She was using sex as an escape. She was using food as an escape, and then she used heroin as an escape. And regardless of what her addiction was at any point in time, she was running from something. She was trying to escape something. And it wasn't until she was able to confront her trauma that she was able to free herself of addiction. Another aspect of this book that I thought was really well written and also made me very emotional was her relationship with her children. A lot of the motivation for her to do what she did was to get her youngest son, Caden, back. And it even got to the point where, like, when she was let out of prison and she was on probation, there were certain things she had to do. She had to go, like, to certain court meetings. She didn't have a car. Like, she's walking miles, waking up like 2 hours early to get from one court to another, to make sure that she is not violating any aspect of her probation, because if she does, she could lose her son. She was so motivated. She could not let anything slip. And also, at the same time, she had to get a job. That was a part of, like, her probation. She had to work, she had to walk, she had to take care of her children. Like, she had to get to places, and it just felt like all odds were stacked against her. And while she was talking about that, in the same breath, she talks about how, if it is this difficult for her as a middle class white woman, and the odds are stacked against her in this way, imagine how it is for people that the system is set up to oppress. And I really appreciate her bringing up that point. um I just thought that was, like, really well written for her to say, listen, I'm struggling, this is hard, but I can acknowledge that it is harder for other people. Really well done. And she even talks about being completely hopeless at one point. She was going to kill herself, and she fell asleep. So there's that. But she talks about, like, wanting to stay alive for her children and wanting to get better. And I just thought that, like, having that as a motivator was, for her, like, it was beautiful. It was really well written. Well written. Yeah, this is on page 277. She reiterates the point that I just spoke about and says, and if it was hard for me to navigate all the conflicting requirements in a logical bureaucracy as a white educated woman with some social support, how difficult was it for others without the same sort of opportunities and privilege? Late at night, I sometimes read through the jail arrest log, so I know when Kiki is back in, and the same for Spider, Vivian, and Nina. The only women I don't see rearrested are the ones who went off to prison. So, like, just acknowledging that alone, I think was really profound. And I love Mama Love. This book, I love Mama Love. She's strong. The girl is strong because honestly, I this whole book had me on my toes. I was just like, whoa, can it get worse? Then it would get worse. Then it would get better. But even in the times that it was better, she still acknowledged that there was this shame and fear. There was multiple times in this book where she was at a point in her life where she was safe, she was successful, but she would still have panic attacks. She would remember an article that came out about her that called her the neighbor from hell. She understood that there were seasons of her life that were not good and others that are better, but that she could end up back in the same predicament. And so she's just like, I don't even know how to explain it. This book is so beautiful. In my last video I talked about, well, actually I don't know if this probably uploaded after. In my last video I talked about how reading builds empathy, and I think I'm really intentional to read books that I feel like build empathy within me, and like reading other people's experience. And this was quite the experience. This was quite the reading experience. It made me really emotional. There was also one part of this text that I really liked, and I'm trying to find it again. Now, this part of the book, I'm on page 77 here. She talks about it. The chapter is called Lost Girls, and it's talking about the women that she's with in the prison. Now, at the time, she's in like her late 30s, I believe, but the women that she's with are fairly younger, and she's talking about like not having her children with her, and a lot of the other women in the prison experience the same thing. Actually, one of the women in the prison with her are pregnant, and so that's a sensitive topic for the women in there, is, you know, children. So she talks about how the younger women, these are women that have already had children, are pregnant, experience things that you wouldn't, like, you couldn't even like experience lifetimes worth of experiences in such a short amount of time. These women are 18, 19, and have lived multiple lives, yet they still don't have a full grasp of life. I'm just going to read it because I don't know if I'm explaining it well. In jail, I am surrounded by girls so young their faces could break your heart. Girls who will ask me to explain to them exactly when in your cycle you can get pregnant. Girls who have children, lots of children, but will look at me blankly when I say the word ovulation. Girls who are full of shame because, like Nina, they have been gang raped, jumped into a gang, beaten up, beaten down. These are the ride or die girls. These are the lost girls, the forgotten girls, the girls whose faces wear scars because they picked at them while staying awake for days with their meth dealer boyfriends. They're ride or die men who forget them the minute they get locked up, the minute they go down for crimes that aren't their own. The hungry girls who think love is a punch to the face, a knife to the neck, a hold this bag for me and give it to my guy when he comes over and show him some love girls. When the doors get kicked in, these girls get locked up. So tough on the outside, but inside they are scared and alone and desperate for things they have no name for. I think what I enjoyed about this book is this isn't only her story. It is the many lives of Mama Love, but you also get the stories of the women, not to a full extent, but you get to the stories of the women that she's with. You get stories of the women at the Gemma program, I think it's called. She does a program, and she also talks about it in her acknowledgments as like if you want to support the Gemma program. Yeah, the Gemma project. You get a lot of different stories of these different women that have different experiences from the author. I keep calling her Mama Love. Her name's Laura Love Hardin, but I like the nickname Mama Love. That have different experiences from Mama Love, yet they're experiencing the same emotion. And that was also a big part of her writing, is she would listen to people tell her their experiences. She was able to write it down, even though she didn't experience exactly what they experienced. She knows the feeling. She was able to replicate what they were feeling in her writing. So when she was writing letters to the county or probation officers or whatever letter she was sending out for the other inmates, they would be shocked and they would be scared. There was one point where they call her a psychic because they're like, how'd you know that? I didn't tell you that. I didn't tell you what I was feeling. I just told you what happened. Yet she was able to document what people were feeling even without being told explicitly, because she was able to connect with them on an emotional level. Um, yeah, I don't have much else to say about this book. It was a 5-star read for me. I recommend it. I mean, It's in Oprah's book club. I wish more people were talking about this book. Maybe people are talking about this book and I don't know. Maybe I'm on like a weird corner of the internet. Maybe my algorithm isn't right. I don't know. If people are talking about this book, then cool, yay. But if they aren't, they need to be. This book is amazing. If you like nonfiction, this is great. If you like memoirs, this is amazing. And if you don't, I still think it's great and I still think it's worth the read. I think everyone can find something in this book, whether it's helping you get through a tough time, whether if you have a love for writing, if you really love writing and you really love reading, this is a great book as well because she was able to find herself through those means. So, yeah, The Many Lives of Mama Love by Laura Love Hardin.